Today, I have the distinct pleasure of being in conversation with one of America's greatest vocalists. She and I have a conversation about genre, how we feel about it, whether or not we feel it applies. But more importantly, in this post pandemic world, or at least we're trying to get post, we are happy to know that vocalists like the incredible Dianne Reeves are taking themselves back out on the road to share live with audiences. So here's a little bit of that conversation.
Extraordinary.
Yes. And so some people may not know that you actually studied classical voice at the University of Colorado. What was the prompt for you to decide that as you were finding your voice, as you were exercising your instrument and training it, that was a direction where you wanted to actually study?
Well, actually, it came before that. It was interesting because my uncle was in the classical world. He thought that it was really important for me to understand the mechanism, how to preserve and to use your voice in a correct way. And so very early on, and I had this really, really great teacher, classical teacher, and she knew, that that's not the area that I was going to go in. So she's prepared me in a way that she said, look, I don't really know anything about jazz, but with these things that I have given you, you can create your exercises or the things that you need to do to build your voice through this foundation. And actually, when I went to the University of Colorado, it wasn't to study voice, it was to study composition, because they really didn't have, by that time, I already knew that jazz was going to be it. And even though they had a jazz program, they didn't have a jazz vocal program. So you had to study with the instrumentalists, which was really, really great, So that's kind of how my trajectory went.
Is that also what you think gave you such facility as a scat singer? Because for me, I jokingly tell people all the time, the first time I scattered in public, it was because I had had some really great sips of Grand Marnier beforehand. Because there's lots of stuff you might do at home, but standing on stage at a microphone with an ensemble playing in the way the scat is, it wasn't something I felt empowered to do. But people that I think do it so well, I feel there's got to be some freedom in maybe embracing the notes and then trusting that your voice can do what your brain is thinking.
A lot of that came from early on when I moved to Los Angeles. I was in a jazz atmosphere, and it could be through, and once again, going back to that time period, I think the uniting force for people like like Dizzy Gillespie being with all of the great Cuban musicians, or even my cousin George Duke and Wayne Shorter and Herbie, and all of them being with African and Brazilian musicians. The uniting force was improv. One of the things was improvisation. The other was respect for all of these other disciplines in music. And I think that jazz, because of its nature in terms of improvisation, it allows for you to find yourself in other places, and be able to have, to be able to communicate and make music with people from totally different genres of music. But all of that is, when I first started singing in Los Angeles, had a group with my friend Billy Childs, who we go way back. And we, our whole concept was to, totally, imagine, the songs of our times and give them a jazz sensibility, and to improvise and to write music and to all this. So we, that's all we did was just jump off the cliff and see what happens. And I just think from years of that and doing that and being in a community, a music community that was all about that. I mean, you could go and sit in just about anywhere, and you might not know the lyrics, but you might know the melody and the changes, and you could add, you could be a part of what was going on.
Thank you for tuning in to this visual and audio edition of the Qualified Qool podcast. If this is your first time tuning in, then allow me to share some background information on how you can stay in touch with us. On IG and Twitter, you can find us at SoulSyncPHL. Again, that's SoulSyncPHL. We have also just recently celebrated our 20th anniversary. And so we want to thank you for getting us to this point and hopefully carrying us through to the next 20 years and beyond. To find out more about everything that our organization is about, visit us online at soul-sanctuary.net. Again, that web address is soul-sanctuary.net. And if you have some idea about things you'd like to hear or see as a part of our programming, hit me up on email, VibeMistress at soul-sanctuary.net. Again, that's me, Stephanie Renée. Hit me up by email at VibeMistress at soul-sanctuary.net.